Good morning. Anthony, you turn on the mic and camera. Good morning. We are on the record in case number 2022-00001. Electronic investigation of Valley Gas Incorporated's failure to comply with KRS 278-496, 807 KAR 5027, and 49 CFR Part 192. My name is Kent Chandler. I'm chairman of the Kentucky Public Service Commission and will be presiding over today's hearing. I'd just like to remind you that if you have cell phones, we ask that you turn them to silent mode or off. Pursuant to the Commission's January 10, 2022 order initiating this matter, this hearing is for the purpose of presenting evidence concerning the alleged violations of law and of showing cause why Valley Gas should not be subject to the penalties prescribed in KRS 278-992 sub 1 for the alleged violations. At this time, we'll have an entry of appearance of counsel for Commission staff.
John Park for Public Service Commission, Division of Inspections. And with me today is Melissa Holbrook, Assistant Director of the Division of Inspections.
Okay. And for Valley Gas Incorporated?
Yes, sir. Parker Warnell on behalf of Valley Gas, and I have my associate Gregory Healy as well.
All right. No one signed up to provide public comment. Doesn't look like we have anybody here, so we'll skip that. So given the nature of this matter, including that it was initiated by the Commission as a result of Commission staff's investigation and findings of violations and noncompliance by Valley Gas with federal gas safety regulations, the Division of Inspections is going to be allowed to present its witnesses in case first. Counsel for Valley Gas will have an opportunity to cross-examine Commission staff's witnesses, and then subsequently be able to provide your own evidence, whether through direct examination or otherwise, as to why Valley Gas should not be subject to the proposed penalties. Do you have any questions about process this morning, Mr. Park?
No, Chairman.
Mr. Warnell?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. And you do have witnesses today, is that correct, Mr. Warnell?
I have one. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Mr. Park, you can call your first witness.
The Division of Inspection calls Mr. David Nash.
All right, Mr. Nash, please raise your right hand. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Please have a seat. State your name and address for the record.
David Nash, 211 Sauer Boulevard, Frankfort, Kentucky.
Mr. Park, you may ask.
Good morning. What is your current employment?
Kentucky Public Service Commission, Division of Inspections.
And what is your current?
Sorry, Mr. Park. So, Mr. Nash, we're going to have to ask you to, it's as a result of the little box that we've put around the witness area, we're going to have to ask you to really speak up because the microphones just don't pick up well enough.
Okay, I'll do my best.
Thank you.
And what is your current position with the Commission?
Utilities Inspector,
And how long have you been employed in that position?
4 years, 4 months.
Have you been certified by the United States Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, or PHMSA?
I have.
And so you've been certified to conduct inspections.
I have.
And what does it involve to obtain the certification?
A series of classes over various areas of pipeline safety.
In your capacity as inspector, did you conduct a standard periodic inspection of Valley Gas on July 12th and 14 through 16 and August 10, 2021?
I did.
And describe that, what that involves as far as field work, records review. What is involved in a standard periodic inspection?
We review the compliance records for natural gas system operation and do a field survey of structures and the system and operator personnel.
Who did you speak with at Valley Gas, or who did you interview and interact with during this inspection?
Primarily Kevin Casey and Kerry as well, but primarily Kevin.
And did you prepare a report based upon your inspection?
I did.
Would you like to provide?
Approach your-
Cam. Let's see, Mr. Park, you have this marked as DOI Exhibit 1. This is a document of record, though, is that correct?
That
You
is
just want it
correct,
marked as a
yes.
hearing exhibit? Okay.
Yes, just go ahead and mark it, or if it's okay, mark it as a hearing. It is in the record, it's attached to the initiating order.
Okay.
Mr. Nash, if you would review this report, this document, and state whether it's a true and accurate copy of the report you prepared after the standard periodic inspection.
It is.
And based upon your inspection, did you make any findings of violations of minimum pipeline safety standards?
I did.
And how many regulations did you find that were violated?
7.
Okay, let's go through each of these violations that you found based upon your inspection. The first one was of 49 CFR Section 192.605, Procedural Manual for Operations, Maintenance, and Emergencies. And what violation of this regulation did you find during your inspection?
The written procedures had not been reviewed as required annually.
And was this, and let me back up, as part of your inspection process, do you review the compliance history of the operator by looking at past inspections?
I do.
And based upon your review of the past inspection, was this first violation a repeat violation from the 2019 inspection?
Yes.
The second regulation you cited is 49 CFR 192.615, emergency plans, specifically the necessity to train personnel in emergency procedures. And what violation did you find?
That the emergency response training had not been conducted as required.
And this would have been in the year 2020 or 2020?
I saw no records for training.
When you conduct a periodic inspection, do you basically look at the period of time in compliance that goes back to the prior inspection, or what period do you look at?
That's typically correct, yes.
The third regulation which you found had been violated is 49 CFR 192.625, odorization of gas. And what violation did you find of this regulation?
That odor levels had not been maintained to the proper required level.
And odorization is required so that if there is a leak, a customer or a member of the public can detect that smell and know that there's a danger of a gas emergency.
That is correct.
The next regulation which you found had been violated is 49 CFR Section 192.721, patrolling of distribution mains and distribution systems. And what finding of violation did you make with respect to this regulation?
That the operator could not produce, produce records that patrolling had been conducted as required.
So this was a record-keeping?
That's correct.
The fifth regulation which you cite as having been violated is 49 CFR 192.739, inspection of pressure limiting and regulator stations. What violation did you find of this regulation?
That the regulator station at 2115 Bewleyville Road could not be inspected due to configuration.
Was this a repeat violation? The sixth regulation that you cite as having been violated is 49 CFR 192.807, record keeping. Record keeping to support an individual's qualification to perform covered tasks. What violation of this regulation did you find?
That the operator could not produce complete records for qualified tasks that for their employees.
And what period did this cover? How long was the gap in records?
Some records could not be produced at all. Other records had been expired.
The seventh regulation that you cite as having been violated is 49 CFR Section 192.805, a qualification program. Each operator should follow a written qualification program that ensures through evaluation that individuals are qualified to perform covered tasks. And what finding did you make of a violation of this regulation?
That operators, employees were performing covered tasks for which they had no current qualification.
How many covered tasks were being performed by individuals that were not OQ'd?
I believe I cited 3.
Let's see, if you would double check your report on that, I believe it's 4.
Oh, yes, you are correct.
And if you would review your report and indicate what those covered tasks were.
Conducting pipe to soil potentials or CP readings, emergency valve inspections, odorization testing, and locate and mark underground facilities.
Was this a repeat violation from September 2019?
That is correct.
After you prepare a report, is it standard practice for the inspector to send the report to the operator and ask the operator to address the findings of violation and also how the operator is going to mitigate or remediate these violations?
That is correct.
And you did so in this case, you sent a copy of the report to Valley Gas requesting comment.
I did.
Brooks?
You may.
Is this a true and accurate copy of Valley Gas's response to your report?
It is.
And it's dated September 2nd, 2021?
That is correct.
In Valley Gas's response, did Valley Gas dispute any of your findings of deficiency?
They did not.
Based on your inspection report and Valley Gas's response to it, the Division of Inspection Enforcement staff sent Valley Gas a demand for remedial measures and penalty assessment, otherwise referred to as a demand letter. Did you have any role in preparing the demand letter?
I did not.
After preparing your inspection report, is it standard practice for you to participate in whether enforcement action should be taken against the operator?
It is not.
So your role is limited to inspecting the system and determining whether the operator was in compliance.
That's correct.
And after staff received Valley Gas's response, did you conduct a follow-up inspection?
I did.
You may.
Okay.
This document I have provided to you. I've marked as DOI Exhibit Number 3, and if you could please describe what this is,
This is a copy of my follow-up inspection report.
and it is a true and accurate copy.
It is.
Based upon your follow-up inspection, did you find that Valley Gas had taken appropriate remedial action and cleared the violations?
I did.
Okay, now we're going to go back through the regulations that you found to have been violated, and if you could indicate the measures that Valley Gas took to address the findings of violations which you made in your original report. So first is 49 CFR 192.605, failure to review O&M manuals. And what action did Valley Gas take to address this failure to review procedures?
They hired a compliance contractor, USDI, who provided them with updated plans and manuals. And Mr. Casey, Kevin and Carrie, reviewed this document on 7/13, according to records that they had provided me in the follow-up.
And the next regulation is 49 CFR 192.615, emergency plans failing to train personnel in emergency procedures and verify that training is effective. What did Valley Gas do to address this?
They received emergency response training on 11/2 of 2021 and provided records indicating such.
Did USDI also provide this training?
Yes.
Third regulation is 49 CFR 192.625, odorization of gas. And what measures did Valley Gas take to address this violation?
They hired USDI to complete repairs on their odorizer, and have since then, according to records they provided to me, have maintained the proper levels of odorant.
The fourth regulation is the failure to patrol distribution systems within the required period of time. And what measure did Valley Gas take to address this patrolling failure?
USDI provided documents for proper recording of these patrolling.
So USDI provided documents for Valley Gas to complete when they patrol.
That is correct.
Fifth regulation is 49 CFR 192.739, failure to inspect the Bewleyville regulator station within a calendar year.
Valley Gas hired USDI to rework the regulator station to allow proper and full testing of the station.
And you confirmed during your supplemental compliance review that they had
That is
fixed.
correct.
Sixth regulation is 49 CFR 192.807, failure to maintain proper records of qualification of individuals performing covered tasks. What did Valley Gas do to address this violation?
They hired USDI to conduct OQ training for multiple tasks, and provided records that the proper training had been conducted.
And I think your answer regarding that regulation probably applies to the next regulation, 49 CFR 192.805 qualification program. They had 4 covered tasks that were being performed by personnel that were not operator qualified. And what did Valley Gas do to correct that deficiency?
They provided qualification for pipe soil potentials, valve inspection, odorization testing, and locating facilities to several Valley Gas employees, and provided documentation.
So after you complete your follow-up inspection, you clear this inspection and send them a closing letter.
That is correct.
And the closing letter indicates that the inspection's closed, but enforcement action could still be forthcoming.
That is correct.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Warnell, any questions?
Yes, sir. Mr. Nash, my questions are primarily going to be regarding damages calculations. Now, I'm aware that you don't actually calculate the damages and propose them to the board or to the staff, what have you. But would you say that you have a general understanding as to how proposed penalties are calculated in these situations, such as size of the company, things of that nature?
I have no idea.
No idea, okay. To clean up some of the citations, so we walked through a total of 7. Is it true that citations number 1, 4, and 6 are considered to be record-keeping citations and therefore considered less serious by the commission? If it would help to go through them individually, citation number 1 would be for the lack of the OME annual reviews.
They are record-keeping.
Okay. And as it pertains to citation number 1 in particular, the OME annual review is, that citation is not saying that Valley Gas did not have OMEs or that the OMEs were insufficient. It's saying that they didn't do the annual review, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Citation number 6 regarding the qualifications program. Did you ever develop any understanding that any of those employees had previously had certifications that had lapsed? Or was it your understanding that none of them had ever been properly certified at any point?
As to that, two of the qualifications, the pipe to soil potentials and the emergency valve inspection, no records of any training could be produced.
Okay. I have no further questions for this witness.
Mr. Park?
I have just one follow-up question on violation 1 with respect to the question of whether it was a record-keeping violation. It's my understanding Valley Gas did have a procedural manner, they just did not perform the task of reviewing it.
That is correct. They could not
Perform that
provide
operation.
documentation that the task had been performed.
But they had the manual, they just didn't perform the task of reviewing it on an annual basis.
That is correct.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Nash. You may be excused. Mr. Park, is there anything else?
No, Your Honor.
And I know there are evidence of record already, but would you like to move to introduce the DOI exhibits 1, 2, and 3?
I would.
Mr. Warnell, any objection?
No objection.
Candace, do you have copies of these?
I would like to have them, I can.
We will get you copies.
Electronic.
Oh, I can.
So, Mr. Park, will you send PDF versions of this to,
Sir.
after the hearing? Separate, okay. All right, and is that all, Mr. Park?
Yes, yes.
Mr. Warnell?
Chairman, would you prefer that Mr. Casey remain here or?
Sam would be great.
Okay,
Yep. Well, our cameras are set up
I got you.
to pick up answers, so.
Valley Gas calls Kevin Casey as its witness.
We'll get
Kevin.
it, yeah. Yeah. We'll get you to spell it as well. Through a minute. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay. Please state your name for the record.
Kevin Casey,
Okay. Do you mind to spell that for the reporter?
K-A-S-E-Y.
Okay. Please have a seat. And state your address for the record as well, Mr. Casey.
It's Hardinsburg, Kentucky, 1297 Hooks Road.
Mr. Warnell?
Thank you, Chairman. Kevin, can you give us a brief professional history regarding Valley Gas as well as your involvement with Valley Gas?
Yes, the system was put in 1962 by my grandfather, and I proceeded, my grandfather ran it, then my father ran it, and now my brother Kerry and I run it. I am basically, I guess you could say, the field operator. I'm vice president of Valley Gas. I've been working there paycheck-wise since 1984. Basically grew up there. And that's about it, you know.
So you said field operations. Are you primarily the one that was involved in remediation efforts of these citations?
Yes.
Okay. How large is Valley Gas? How many customers do you have and how many employees?
It fluctuates, but roughly around 480 people.
Okay. Give us a rough overview of the history of compliance and history of interactions between Valley Gas and the PSC.
We basically have always had a really good working relationship with them. And we've always tried to do everything. We've never been cited, you know, since 1962. We've been doing for however long I don't know how long Public Service Commission has been overlooking. This is prior to me knowing a lot of stuff. But we've always, you know, done what they ask us to do.
Okay. So aside from a couple repeat violations that first popped up in 2019, previously there have been no such hearings such as the one we're having today regarding citations?
Correct.
Okay. Kevin, give us a general overview. So once the citations came about, give us a flyover view of the remediation efforts, and we'll go through them individually here in just a moment, but if you could shed a little light on the procedures that you all took, companies you engaged, and some of the issues that you may have experienced over the last couple of years in checking these boxes.
Well, you know, I guess it started in 2019 when we were trying to get everything together. You know, since we're so small, it's just basically me and my brother, and we use a few employees to help us. 2019, my son passed away. He was 22 years old, and so when that happened, I was basically out of sync with Kerry. Kerry was pretty much running the show, you know, until I could kind of get things back together and get back to work. Which, I don't know, that was probably a 3-month, maybe a 4-month period that it just took a little while to get over. And then, with that being said, right after he passed away is when COVID hit wide open also. So it was kind of, you know, a double whammy, so to speak, on us. And so we, at that point, were trying to get things together as far as getting everybody certified on all the different stuff. And every time we tried to make arrangements to be certified, which we got certified on a few things, COVID just kept wrecking us. We couldn't keep everybody there, you know. We would plan to have all these guys certified on stuff, and then, you know, it was a day-to-day thing, who's got COVID and who doesn't, basically. Some guys would show up, some guys call up that morning, so we kind of had to put everything on the back burner, because it was too hard to get everybody in sync. People from far away to come in to certify us, and we couldn't send our guys there either. So that just, like I said, basically just messed everything up over a good little period of time, as far as getting certifications and doing a lot of the other things. COVID just, I guess it wrecked us like it did everybody else, you know.
Would it be fair to say that during that time, though, you were making efforts to start remediating these citations, and that you then hit obstacles such as the ones you just talked about?
Yes, exactly. I mean, it wasn't like we forgot about it. We knew it was there. It was just a matter of getting everything arranged. Several of the people that we had done business with before that got us certified, they could either make it when we couldn't have all our employees there, or when we tried, or vice versa. They couldn't make it, when we had everybody there. So it was just a mess, basically, every time, for lack of a better word.
That all notwithstanding, as of early March this year, is it your understanding that all 7 of these citations, these violations have been cleared?
Yes,
And to your understanding, has the PSC acknowledged that?
yes.
Okay. If I can have everybody turn to what I've pre-marked as number 2 in our binders. Number 1 has already been previously introduced as DOI exhibit number 3.
Is this your binder, Mr. Warnell?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm here and not a hearing officer.
Sorry about that.
What number?
Number 2. Kevin, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Kevin, if I can have you walk through this, this looks like an overview of USDI services and proposal. Can you give us an overview of what USDI was engaged to do and whether they did it?
Yes, basically updating, our OEM manual, they did that. The emergency plan was on us, we took care of that. The public awareness program plan was taken care of. They went ahead and got our guys OQ qualified, along with myself, on various things, depending upon what they were working on or what they were going to work on. The leakage survey, they came in and did that. Cathodic protection, the same way. They came out and went back out to the regulator and relief station and took care of that. And they helped us when David came in from the get-go. They set in on it, so they would know exactly what was going on as far as Kentucky inspection representation and assistance. The regulator station reconfiguration goes along with number 7. They took care of that. The OQ online training, enrollment, and testing, and field evaluations was all taken care of. That was another problem we had, is getting everybody in sync. When can they come to do it? And when can we have all our guys there to do it? But we got all that taken care of. Emergency plan, training, evaluations, we took care of that. The OME procedures training, odorization adjustment, remediation. They came in and helped us with that and the testing equipment. Loaned us the calibrated loaner equipment, and since the last 2 things, they recommended some new tools that we weren't aware of that exist now that we weren't using, and we purchased those, and that's been it.
Did you have a general understanding then that this scope of services that has 17 items listed, that all 17 of these items in conjunction address all of the 7 violations by the PSC?
Yes.
Okay. Would it also be fair to say, you mentioned that there were tools and equipment introduced that you all had not previously seen. So has USDI also equipped Valley Gas for future compliance as well as remediating these citations?
Yes.
Okay. Move to introduce what's been pre-marked as Exhibit 2 as respondents. If it's fine with everybody, I'll just keep the numbers as we've got and skip over number 1. But move to introduce as respondents Exhibit number 2.
So tab 2, introduced as exhibit number 2, and this is already, is this already part of the record?
I believe so, yes, sir.
You just would like to mark it? Okay. Mr. Park? Any
No
objection?
objection.
Okay. All right. And does the reporter have a copy of this?
We can provide one.
Okay, so we'll do that post-hearing. I'll enter an order requesting that you provide digital PDF copies of these to make it easier to make sure they're part of the notice of filing of the record following the hearing.
Yes, sir.
All right.
If I can have everyone to turn to what has been pre-marked as tab number 3 in the exhibit binder. And Kevin, if you can let me know when you're there.
Okay.
What's been pre-marked as exhibit number 3, Kevin, is it your understanding that this is a confirmation letter from USDI indicating that they had, as of January 27th, completed the scope of services that we looked at in the previous exhibit?
Yes.
Okay. And you can confirm that all 17 of these tasks had in fact been completed by USDI?
Yes.
Okay. Move to introduce what's been pre-marked as exhibit number 3 as respondents exhibit number 3.
Mr. Park?
No objection.
All right, we'll have it marked as exhibit number 3.
If I can have everyone turn to number 4, and Kevin, if you can let me know when you're there.
Okay.
Kevin, can you flip through this for just a moment and confirm that this is an annual review certification sheet and verification test?
Yes.
Okay. The names that we see printed on the first page here, there is a table with 2 columns. There's printed names in the left and signed names in the right. Who are these people that appear in this table?
They are employees of Irvington Gas that we use on the Valley Gas system,
Okay.
2 of which have already left us.
So even post-qualification efforts that have happened in the last few months, you've lost some of the people that have now been certified.
Yes.
Has there been anyone hired in the interim that?
Not yet.
Okay. So, as of the date that these were completed, was this the full list of individuals that needed to review the OMEs?
Yes.
Okay. And if we were to flip through the remainder of Exhibit 4, would it show that all of these individuals also completed a knowledge verification test?
Yes.
Prior to engaging USDI, were you ever presented any forms such as the one we're looking at here that walks you through annual reviews and verification tests?
No. No.
So we've previously established that you had OMEs, that they were sufficient, and that the deficiency was in the annual review. So walk us through how annual review efforts prior to when this issue first arose in 2019, what did that process look like?
It was basically Carrie and I getting the book out and going over it with the guys and writing on a piece of paper the day that we did it and with whoever was on there. But we didn't have the actual, USDI showed us actual forms. We didn't know the forms existed actually, so.
Kevin, how often, if at all, during these annual reviews would you say that you need to make adjustments to the OMEs, having been around since the 1960s?
Nothing's changed as far as our operation goes. If anything, we've lost customers. But as far as how we operate and maintain everything, it's pretty much been the same.
Okay. Move to introduce what's been pre-marked as Exhibit 4 as Respondents Exhibit 4.
No
Mr.
objection.
Park? Have it marked as exhibit 4.
If I can have everyone turn to citation number, or what's been pre-marked as Exhibit number 5. And Kevin, if you can let me know when you're there.
Okay.
Kevin, is it your understanding that the OME annual review that we just looked at, that pertained to citation number 1 regarding the need for record keeping for an annual review of the OMEs?
Yes.
Okay. And is it your understanding that this pertaining to the annual emergency plane review is in correlation with citation number 2 for emergency plane training?
Yes.
Okay. And if we were to look through what's been pre-marked as Exhibit 5, what do these verification tests show?
That the people took the test, passed the test, they have a general knowledge of everything going on as far as the emergency plan goes.
Okay. Is there anyone that needed to have taken these tests that is not otherwise represented in what is being submitted to the commission?
No.
Move to introduce what's been pre-marked as Exhibit 5 as Respondent's Exhibit 5.
Mr. Park,
No objection.
marked as Exhibit 5.
If I can have everyone turn to number 6, and Kevin, if you can let me know when you're there.
Mr. Warren, before you keep going, I just want to make sure you chose not to do anything with number 1. Is that because Mr. Park already moved to introduce
Yes.
equivalent of number 1?
Yes.
2 through 5 at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Please proceed.
Kevin, are you number 6?
Yes.
Okay. Can I have you explain to me what this invoice, who it's from, what it's pertaining to, and for how much?
It's from USDI, and basically it was for Jason Brangers to come down and go through the plans and manuals and talk to us about getting everything updated. And the amount was $8,392.
Is it your understanding that this invoice covered testing, development, what have you, for both citations number 1 and 2, which would be both the OMEs and the emergency plane training?
Yes,
Okay, so for a total of citations number 1 and 2, you all spent what appears to be $8,392?
yes.
Okay. Move to enter what's been pre-marked as Exhibit 6 as Respondent's Exhibit number 6.
Mr. Park,
No objection.
have it marked as Respondent 6.
Kevin, if I can have you flip to, if I can have everyone flip to Exhibit 7A. This is a 2-page document with 2 different pictures that is going to be submitted collectively. Kevin, walk us through the odorization citations, what you all did to remediate them, or what USDI did, and tell us what these 2 pictures represent.
Well, this second picture here, excuse me, my nose is running. This second picture here is actually part of the regulator station where they redid everything. So that's not part of the odorization thing. The other one, they came in and what they helped us do is repipe the odorization tank. We'd upgraded the tank. Previously, we purchased it from Indiana Utilities, and I guess you could say we went high-tech compared to the way we used to do it. But we got it from Indiana Utilities, but we had some issues with it in learning how to use it, so they came in and helped us repipe some of it, and, you know, basically, when they repiped everything, they showed us how to use it, along with, gave us a loaner for the odorometer, I guess that's what they call it, that we use at the gas company to check odorant every Friday. So they loaned that while we got our other one updated. So.
Okay, and is it your understanding that the gauges, the repiping that has been done, is it your understanding that that will aid in preventative measures going forward, or in compliance measures going forward?
Yes, yes.
Move to introduce what has been pre-marked as 7A into evidence as Respondent's Exhibit A, 7A.
Mr. Park,
No objection.
7A.
Kevin, if I can have you flip to 7B and let me know when you're there.
Okay.
Kevin, can I have you tell us what this invoice is for, who it's from, and in what amount?
This was when they came in and redid the odorizer and went through everything, just as I spoke earlier about the repiping and repairs that we needed to have on it. It was done by USDI for the amount of $490.
And is it your understanding that this pertains to the remediation of citation number 3 regarding the odorization?
Yes,
Okay. Have you contracted with USDI to conduct future odorant tests, annual tests, things of that nature?
yes.
How often is that going to occur?
Basically, whenever it is required. I don't know right off the top of my head how often, but, you know, I'd have to look that up.
If I were to suggest 4 times a year, would that sound correct?
Yes,
Okay. And USDI has been retained on an ongoing perpetual basis in order to come out and conduct those
Yes.
reviews annually?
yes.
Okay. Move to introduce into evidence what's been pre-marked as 7B as Respondent's Exhibit 7B.
Mr. Park?
No objection.
7B.
Kevin, if I can have you flip to what's been pre-marked as number 8, and let me know when you're there. And actually, we're going to set aside number 8 for a moment and just talk in general about citation number 4, for which we don't have any admission into evidence in terms of exhibits. But did you all contract with USDI to perform leakage surveys?
Yes,
So when you contracted USDI, what did they do for you?
they basically come out and do the leak survey on whatever's required at that time, the business sections, along with the rest of the city at the time, so.
Has USDI provided forms and other record-keeping aids in order
Yes.
to, okay.
Yes,
Did USDI, within the scope of their engagement, did they provide any training in pipeline patrol?
yes,
Would that have been for all of the same individuals that were enumerated back in the emergency plan and OME annual
Yes.
review?
yes. That
And
was
you-
part of the certification.
Okay, so each one of those individuals has been trained by USDI in pipeline patrol, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. Is there anyone in Valley Gas that would need to be trained in pipeline patrol that has not?
no,
Okay. So would it be fair to say that USDI has equipped you for preventative measures as it pertains to pipeline patrol as well as the remediation of the citation?
yes.
Okay. And then moving on to citation number 5, which was the pressure limiting and regulating stations, the inspection and testing of such. Did you all likewise contract with USDI to reconfigure the station and perform inspection?
Yes.
What all did that entail during USDI's engagement?
It was actually shown in that picture, but they came out and basically,
Kevin, real quick, when you say that picture, would it have been the second part of Exhibit
yes, it
7A?
was this picture of this yellow pipe here.
Okay, and for the record, we're looking at the second page of what was previously introduced as Respondent's Exhibit 7A. So Kevin, tell us what's going on here.
Basically, what we needed was a pressure gauge on it, and they basically just came in, tore this section down, put this piece of pipe in that had a welded section for that pressure regulator right there. That's basically what they did.
Okay. So in addition to the physical repairs and replacements that you just walked us through, did they perform any other testing, record keeping, anything of
For
that
the
nature?
regulator station,
Yes.
they gave us the proper forms. You know, they've been very helpful as far as that goes. They have a litany of forms for everything that, we needed, so they provided us all the forms that we needed.
Prior to your engagement of USDI, specifically as it pertains to the forms you're referencing now, did you have those forms previously?
No, we did not.
Okay. Let's look at what's been pre-marked as Exhibit 8. And Kevin, if I can have you tell us who this is from and in what amount?
This is from USDI also, for the amount of $12,169.93.
Is it your understanding, Kevin, that this pertains to USDI's scope of work involved in the regulating station compliance?
Yes.
Okay. Move to introduce what has been pre-marked as respondents, or as Exhibit 8 into evidence as respondents Exhibit 8.
Mr. Park?
No objection.
Introduce, at Exhibit 8, respondents Exhibit 8. Is that how you want to, I just want to make sure that we're clear, Mr. Warner, you want to identify them as specifically respondents Exhibit, and then 2 through 8 with 7 being 7A and 7B?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Kevin, just to put a cap on that one, is it your understanding that that roughly $12,000 amount, the invoice we just looked at, that was for the remediation efforts pertaining to citation number 5 with the regulatory stations?
Yes, they came in and rebuilt regulators and went through all the regulators.
Okay.
and
Let's
got
talk
us into
general,
compliance.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And got us into compliance.
Okay. Has USDI also equipped you for future compliance in that area
Yes.
as well?
Yes.
Karen, let's talk generally about citations number 6 and 7, which are the qualification program and the record keeping for such. Any of the individuals that we previously looked at in the OME exhibit or the emergency plan exhibit, have any of those individuals in the past at any point been certified in the qualifications program?
Yes.
Give us an overview of those individuals who had previous certifications, how they lapsed, why they lapsed, just pertinent information.
Basically, I have to go back and look at those names, but the main person that was involved in that's been with us the longest was Brad Fackler. And Brad had been through all the certifications more than once previously, along with myself. So, you know, he'd been certified on just about everything along with myself on all that. So, yes, you know, he was our guy, was. He's not our guy anymore.
Is he one of the guys that left?
Yes.
So,
He's
Mr.
Nucor's-
Fackler,
He's Nucor's guy now.
Mr. Fackler aside, what is the general experience in terms of years of engagement within a comparable role for Valley Gas of the others, such as David Dutaz, Heath Eskridge, and Daniel Griffith?
I'm sorry, say that one more time?
Can you give us a general overview of the experience, the time spent with Valley Gas by those individuals?
Let's see, they're different times, I'd say, out of all of them. David Dutez had been certified on a few things prior to that happened, you know, previously. So, but the rest of the guys, they worked for us from anywhere from, you know, 5 years up to a year ago, you know. So, I don't know the exact dates when they were hired, so to speak, so.
That's fine. Where I'm going with this is, would you say that at any given point, you were sending out inspectors, workers, what have you, that were underqualified or didn't know what they were doing out in the field?
No. Brad was always the main lead guy. If not, it was me. So,
Okay. Kevin, if I can have you flip to what's been pre-marked as number 9 and let me know when you're there. Kevin, can I have you tell me who Ark Randolph is and what the scope of engagement was for which you hired them?
Ark Randolph is a company that specializes in OQ training, and we had them come in and do training for us. They've done it for years past also, and they came in and did, this is when we were trying to get people certified on different things. And this was just different training on, OQ training on different things that they came in and did for the amount of $3,195.
Okay. Move to introduce what's been pre-marked as number 9 as Respondents Exhibit 9.
Mr. Park,
No objection.
marking number 9.
Kevin, if I can have you flip to what's been pre-marked as 10A, and let me know when you're there.
Okay.
Kevin, if we were to flip through what appears to be 37 pages of 10A, what do these 37 pages show us as it pertains to qualification program training, OQ training?
Basically, it's showing the different employees that we have that have been trained on certain things. It looks like, purging, abandonment of mains, recognizing unsafe meter sets, red tagging appliances, lighting customer equipment up, things of that nature. One call response. Emergency plans, abnormal operating conditions. Most everything that we have to be OQ qualified on.
Okay. Move to introduce what has been pre-marked as 10A as Respondents Exhibit 10A.
Mr. Park,
No objection.
Kevin, if I can have you flip to 10B, and let me know when you're there.
I'm there.
Kevin, can you confirm that this is more of the same in terms of recordation of OQ training having been completed?
Yes.
Okay, so would it be fair to say that collectively with what we just introduced as 10A, that these two documents together combine to show all of the OQ training of everyone who needed it?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anyone at Valley Gas who would need to go through OQ training that has not, that does
No.
not appear in 10A or 10B?
No.
Okay. Move to introduce what's been pre-marked as 10B as Respondents Exhibit 10B.
Mr. Park,
No objection.
Kevin, if I can have you flip to 10C and let me know when you're there.
Okay.
Kevin, if you can look at this invoice, tell us who it's from, what it's for, and in what amount.
USDI again, and this was basically a review of records and regulator needs done by Jason Brangers when he came in to take a look to see if there was anything else that needed to be, finished up as far as getting us into compliance. And it was for the amount of $350.
Okay. So is it your understanding that this $350 was put towards remediations for citations 6 and 7 regarding OQ training?
Yes.
Okay. I move to introduce what's been pre-marked as 10C into evidence as Respondents 10C.
Mr. Park,
No objection.
10C.
Kevin, if I can have you flip to 10D and let me know when you're there.
I'm there.
All right, in similar fashion as we did with 10C, can you walk us through who this invoice is from, what it's for, and in what amount?
USDI, they came in and we had one individual at the time that needed to be trained specifically on a few things that wasn't there in the initial training with all the other guys, so we had to bring them back in for the amount of $6,372.20.
Okay, and is it your understanding that that $6,372.20 was put towards remediation efforts of citations number 6 and 7 regarding OQ training?
Yes.
Okay. Move to introduce what's been pre-marked as 10D into evidence as Respondents 10D.
Mr. Park,
No objection.
all right, 10D.
Kevin, if I can have you flip to number 11 and let me know when you're there.
I'm there.
All right, Kevin, similar fashion as the previous two, who's this invoice from, what is it for, and in what amount?
The USDI, and it is follow-up with David Nash, making sure that everything was taken care of on our part, communicating with him to see if there was anything else left that we needed to do. And it was for the amount of $140.
Would it be fair to say that this $140 then is not related to any particular citation, but the overall efforts of compliance
Yes.
with PSC? Okay. Move to introduce what's been pre-marked as Exhibit 11 into evidence as respondent's Exhibit 11.
Mr. Park?
No objection.
All right, 11. Kevin, finally, if I can have you flip to number 12 and let me know when you're there.
I'm there.
All right. Kevin, this is a quote from a company called HSC Cloud. Can you explain who HSC Cloud is, what you all are having quoted, and what you're hoping they can do for Valley Gas?
Yeah, they're a company that we contacted about getting an app set up that we can take care of all these records that we didn't have done previously and have it all on an app, on a computer that we can take care of, and that the guys out in the field can, you know, do everything that's needed done there in the field, and it's gonna go back, it'll be in a cloud-based thing. We won't have any more issues keeping records of anything. Everything will be right there. So, we contacted them, and we're talking to them about the whole thing, and that's what they work with, is everything that we've just gone through. Their app covers everything.
Are you soliciting quotes from similar companies that would offer a similar scope of services as well?
Yes, we've talked to two others. USDI has one, along with another company called PipeSuite. We've talked to USDI earlier, and then when we went to the KGA meeting, we already talked to Holland before we got there, but then they were there and we talked to them again, and then we met up with PipeSuite also. So we're in discussions with all three to see who's got the app that's gonna work the best for us in this situation, so.
Okay, and to clarify, you're looking to engage one of these types of companies for future compliance too?
Yes, to keep track of all the records, everything that we need to do, and have it all there readily available, rather than having to go through, you know, keeping paper records and all that, which we will still do, but this will make it a whole lot easier.
Okay. If I could direct you to the middle of that page and have you walk me through what the potential amount is that you'll be spending per month in future compliance efforts.
Well, you know, they have the basic plan, and it's a total of, you know, $1,529.50 a month. And then, you know, you go to your advanced at $1,998.50 a month, or your premier, which is $3,339 per month. And, you know, with each one, you get to use more users on there, and the technology, you know, as far as what we can keep goes, I guess each one, as it goes up, allows you to do more stuff with it. So if you can look up above, like the Premier plan has everything included that we would need. So basically, you're looking around $3,339 per month that we would be spending on an app to keep track of all these records.
Okay. And is it your understanding that that amount, whenever it begins, will be incurred indefinitely for?
Yes.
Okay. So, in addition to a prospective roughly $3,300 a month for future compliance, do you have an understanding that all of the invoices that we've looked at, that we've introduced, excluding this quote, so the USDI invoices and the ARC Randolph contract, do you have an understanding that those add up to $31,149.13?
Yes.
Okay. So you've spent that roughly $31,000 on efforts to remediate the 7 citations that we've been talking about today.
Yes,
In addition to a prospective, possibly around $3,300 a month moving forward to prevent future hearings like this.
yes.
Okay. Kevin, tell us, with the amount that has been levied, so there's currently a pending assessment of $42,000. If that entire amount were to be levied against Valley Gas, what effects might that have on Valley Gas and on the end user?
Well, as far as Valley Gas goes, you know, we haven't grown. We've actually lost customers probably in the last 20 years. So this is not a thriving business by any means. Every year, as everybody knows, we're fighting electric companies. One of our biggest users was the school there in town, and they built a new school, and they went geothermal, even though we told them that we would run a gas main to their place for free, you know. And same way with contractors. We're fighting it constantly. Nobody wants to put in gas anymore. They want to put in electric. So, you know, the end game result is this is not a money-making deal. So if we get billed this amount, then we're going to basically have to go to the bank, get a loan, turn around, and apply for a rate increase. So this goes back to the end user, you know.
When's the last rate increase that Valley Gas had?
Probably in the last 10 years, maybe. Yeah.
Kevin, is there anything that we have not discussed that you would like to put before the commission for consideration in this case?
Well, besides what I just said, the fact of the matter is that we've never been cited since 1962 on any of these things, that we've always tried to stay in compliance up until all this COVID mess and everything hit. You know, we didn't do this on purpose, basically. It was just COVID, basically, more than anything, that created this mess for us. So, you know, we've never had any accidents. We've never had anything happen within the system since 1962. So I think that speaks a lot for itself. And another thing is we've been certified on all these things previously. So it wasn't like we never got certified. Myself and Brad Fackler were both certified on all these things previously to get recertified. So, you know, that's another thing I'd like to express. It's not like this is Johnny come lately and we got a bunch of new guys in. Brad and myself both have been going through this. A lot of it was just record keeping that we just didn't take care of at the time, but we were doing. But when we put it on the records, sometimes maybe we weren't qualified, but we were going ahead and doing it anyways, you know. So to make sure, to keep everything safe, even though we knew we weren't quote unquote certified, Brad and myself and some others, but Brad or myself were always with the other guys. So, yeah.
Thanks, Kevin. I have no further questions. Chairman Chandler or Mr. Park may have some questions. I'd ask that you answer those as they come.
Mr. Warner, would you like to move to introduce number 12?
I
You've
would, I
identified
apologize.
it.
Move to introduce as Respondents Exhibit 12.
Mr. Park,
I have a few questions.
do you have any objections?
No, I have no objections.
Item 12, all right, we'll have 12 introduced as well. So 2 through 12, make sure I get this right for my notes. 2 through 12, 7 has an A and a B, and 10 has an A, B, C, and a D. Is that correct, Mr. Warner?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, Mr. Park?
Good morning, Mr. Casey. You testified, I believe, that Valley Gas has incurred approximately $31,100 in response to the findings of violation,
Yes,
and those expenditures were necessary for Valley Gas to achieve compliance?
yes,
You indicated that Valley Gas has had employees has had its employees operator qualified in the past.
yes,
So that's a recurring necessary expenditure that every gas operator incurs.
Yes.
Did Valley Gas, in response to the citations, purchase any equipment?
Yes.
And what equipment was that?
We purchased different, well, I don't know the exact name of it. It's a lot of stuff dealing with plastic pipe that we have in the system, things of that nature that we didn't know existed out there, that they said, recommended that we might get to make the job easier.
So, I'm not sure if I understood that answer. You purchased some plastic piping or?
No, tools to work with plastic piping.
I see. And do you know what the approximate amount of money spent on the tools?
Too much. But I don't know, I'd have to look up the receipts. I could send you the receipts on
Okay.
it all.
Which contractor or vendor provided those tools?
USDI.
USDI?
Jason Brangers, and then the instructor, Mark, I can't think of his last name. They showed us these new tools that were available out there.
Did you purchase the tools from?
Yes,
Okay.
well, not through them, but through who they recommended.
Okay.
They're distributors that they deal with now.
Would the invoice for those purchases be in the exhibits that were tendered on your behalf?
We don't have them here, but we can get them to you, yeah.
You indicated in your testimony that USDI is, you currently have a contractual relationship with USDI to provide services. And
Yes, sir.
there's no term of the contract, there's no time period assigned
No.
to it, it's just renewable on a monthly basis?
Well, whenever is deemed necessary that we need to have these things done, they come in and do it.
And you indicated you anticipate Valley Gas would need to seek an adjustment of rate to recover these additional expenses?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to touch on one thing. You indicated that Valley Gas had not been previously cited for any violations?
Yeah, prior to that, yes.
Okay. And just to be clear, I'm not talking about you've been subject to, or Valley Gas has been subject to an enforcement action such as a demand letter or a formal case, but in the periodic inspection reports, have you ever been cited previously? Has Valley Gas ever been cited previously?
We might have been cited, but I think we alleviated those. You know, that's something I'd have to go back and look at, honestly. But we've never lapsed on anything, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you.
This document is marked Division of Inspections Exhibit 5. And unfortunately, I've got two exhibits that are out of order. The next one will be Exhibit 4. But if you would describe this document that I have given to you.
It's an inspection report done by Steve Samples.
And if you will review the top of the first page, does it indicate when this inspection was performed?
The 15th. I'm sorry. June 29th, 2015.
And if you would turn to the third page of this document,
Okay.
does it indicate that Valley Gas was cited for noncompliance in this 2015 inspection?
Yes.
And these deficiencies, to your knowledge, were cleared?
Yes.
Do you recognize this report?
Honestly, no, I'm sure I would, but I don't remember that far back.
All right, I move for what's marked as Division of Inspections Exhibit 5 be introduced.
Mr. Warnell?
No objection.
DOI Exhibit 5.
Again, I apologize, these are out of order. This is marked as Division of Inspection Exhibit 4. May I approach?
May.
And if you could please describe this document that I have handed you.
It was an inspection report done by Mike Nance and Matt Caudell, October 2nd, 2019.
If you will turn to page 3 of this inspection report, does it indicate that the inspector made findings of probable violations?
Yes,
And there are 9 violations here?
yes.
Your Honor, I move for this document to be introduced into the record as DOI Exhibit Number 4.
Council, any objection?
No objection.
Brooks, Your Honor.
May.
Thank you.
Mr. Casey, please describe the document that I've handed to you.
Looks like a warning letter, December 1st, 2020, sent to my brother by the Public Service Commission.
Do you have any recollection of Valley Gas having received a warning letter?
At that time, I did not know. Like I said earlier, I wasn't available at that time. So, well, I take it back. What is that, December 1st? No. But no, I don't have any recollection of it, so.
Did this warning letter pertain to the inspection conducted by Public Service Commission staff in 2019?
I assume so. Yeah,
And there were 9 violations in 2019?
yeah. Yes.
Looking at the second to last paragraph of the letter, which starts on the bottom of page 1, does it indicate that staff had decided in this situation that no penalty should be assessed?
On the second or first page,
Pardon me?
which paragraph, on the first or second page?
It's the paragraph that starts at the very, very bottom of page 1 and continues over to page
Oh.
2.
All right, I read it. And what were you asking? I'm sorry.
Is it correct that staff did not propose that Valley Gas be assessed a civil penalty for the violations cited in the 2019 report?
Yes,
And did staff also advise Valley Gas that it would be inspected on an annual basis due to these past violations, and that if Valley Gas is found to be in violation of a pipeline safety standard again, that the past compliance history of Valley Gas would be taken into account?
yes.
Your Honor, I move that this document be introduced as Division of Inspection Exhibit 6.
Mr. Warnell?
No objection.
All right, DOI 6.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Let's take a short recess, give Mr. Wardle an opportunity to speak to his client, look at these documents. We will take a recess until, we'll take a 13-minute recess until 10:50. We're back on the record in case number 2022-00001. I have a few questions before I give you an opportunity for redirect, Mr. Warnell. Good morning, Mr. Casey.
Good morning.
You've, in the memorandum response that your council filed on Valley Gas's behalf, the alternative request, let me get this right. I think the initial request is that no fine be levied. The alternative is that it be reduced according to the memorandum. And then finally, it says that any penalty should be further discounted and reduced by the amount of money spent in performing the above-mentioned remedial measures and be suspended contingent upon certain conditions. Do you know, you're generally aware of the 7 violations, right?
Yes.
So, do you know how many of those violations that the remediation was just incurring costs for activities that should have already been undertaken? For instance, OQ qualifications, right? Or that's redundant. Like OQ, right? The operator qualifications. The operator should have already been qualified ahead of time. Getting them qualified and keeping them qualified is a cost that you all would have or should have already incurred on an ongoing basis, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the contract with, is it USDI, is that right?
Yes.
Is that something that should have been in place but for the lapse?
Yes.
Okay. So do you know how many of the costs that are incurred are, well, I think a perfect example is the yellow piping in your council's exhibit 7B, I think. You all fixed that piping, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's a capital cost?
Yes.
Is that fair? Okay. So do you know, of the tools that you all purchased, do you know if those are capital costs or if they're expenses? Do you know how you account for those?
Expenses.
Okay. Do you know what the distinction in terms of the expenses you've incurred have been? Let me use costs. Of the costs that you've incurred to ensure you remediate the violations, do you know what the breakdown generally of those are between expenses and capitalized costs?
No, I don't. Honestly, I'd have to refer that to my brother because I work primarily out in the field,
Okay,
so.
all right. And also in the memorandum of response, it states that violations 1, 4, 5, and 7, that although they were noted as repeat deficiencies from 19, they were cleared in 19. Do you know if you all have any documentation that would indicate that they were cleared in 19?
I'd have to go back and look, honestly.
And regardless of the breakdown between cost, expenses, capitalized cost and expenses, do you know how much you all have incurred on a total basis or even an itemized basis to remediate the 7 violations?
Well, as far as I know, it was that cost that we said previously, wasn't it, Parker, the 31?
Are you asking about the
Yeah.
exhibits that were referenced?
Everything that we've done with what you saw billed from USDI and Ark Randolph for all the costs that we've incurred,
Okay.
getting everything taken care of.
All right. So, you've characterized a couple of the violations as being think of the term now. Now I'm forgetting the term. You talked about some of the violations were just related to keeping notes or keeping record
Yes.
keeping. What was the phrase you used there?
That's a good question.
It's escaping me.
I would just say, you know, it was a matter of having the proper forms to fill out. We had filled out previously things, you know, I guess you could say they weren't as, I don't know, standardized as USDI had sent us, you know.
Yeah. Well, let me ask about the odorization. If you conduct the odorization correctly, let's just say you add the odorization, you keep it at a certain level, you do the checks, you do it, but you don't ever write down that you did it. Do you have any, it would be impossible to prove that you ever did it. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
We had, as far as doing the odorization checks at the office, you know, we had done that, okay. The form that we use is different than USDI's. I guess you could say it's more primitive looking.
Well, but like the patrolling, for instance. Unless you wrote down, unless you noted that you did the patrolling, it would be impossible, other than taking somebody's word for it, that you had actually ensured compliance with that CFR. Is that fair?
Yes, what we do is, I'll explain that a little bit. As far as the patrolling goes, once a year, what we do is everything is electronically read as far as all the meters in the town. But once a year, we send people out, myself included, to inspect and read all the meters in person. When we did that, we would always write down all the meter readings, you know, on the date that we did it and everything. And when they do that, they walk the mains, they inspect the meter sets and all that, but we're not noting that on that piece of paper. We're just writing down the meter readings. But the reason we do that is to visually inspect all the meter sets and everything. As far as them making notations on that piece of paper, no, they don't. But we previously did not have a proper form, I guess, to write that down. Does that make sense?
Well, it does to a certain degree, but in the past, you hadn't been cited for that. Is that accurate?
Right,
So
Yeah.
you had been in the past seemingly writing down that you had done the patrol.
right. And we had using different forms.
And I don't know that the form necessarily matters as much as documentation that it was actually done.
Yeah, like I said, it was, USDI gave us a lot more standardized, proper forms, I guess, for everything
Okay.
than what we were used to using.
And then I just, one of the exhibits that was handed out earlier, Exhibit 5, which was the 2015 inspection. Do you have a copy of that in front of you?
No.
Would you like to provide the witness? Thank you. This is the 2015 inspection, right? The one you were asked about earlier, the June 29th, 2015?
Yes, sir.
Or I think the
Yes.
inspections were in May, but, and into June. But do you see at the bottom where it references the 2014 inspection on the first page?
Is that date of last inspection?
That's right.
Yes.
And how many deficiencies does it note that were in the 2014 inspection?
5,
Okay. And then were all those deficiencies cleared from the 2014 inspection?
it says everything but 2.
Okay. And then in the 2015 on page 3, one of the issues is the OQ. Would you agree?
You'll have to, is that number 2 down there in probable findings?
Number 2, yeah. You see the Valley Gas Operator Qualification Plan has 4 tasks, employees that are still overdue to be qualified.
Yes.
And then, do you have a copy of DOI Exhibit 4, which is the 2019 inspection? Do you mind to hand a copy of that to the witness? You were asked about this inspection earlier, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, do you mind to go to page 3 on it? Those are those 9 probable violations that were discussed.
Yes.
Do you see that, that number 3 is around the documentation of the annual review of the O&M maintenance manual?
Yes.
And then number 4 there is that records provided indicated that all Valley Gas employees' OQ certifications were not current as required?
Yes.
And then I just asked about today, you said you're more out in the field. Are all the tasks that are being completed that require qualification, are all the operators completing those tasks
Yes.
qualified?
Yes.
And then, lastly, there's DOI Exhibit 3, which is, I think, is the follow-up inspection. The report is dated March 1st, 2022. Do you have a copy of that? You mind to hand him a copy? Thank you, counsel. And do you mind to turn to page 3 of that document? Or let me go back, just to be clear. This is, most of all these other inspections all have your brother as the person that was, that they interviewed until the 2021, and then you were, you're also one of the people interviewed for this one, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so on page 3, do you see that the issue regarding OQ, which is finding 6, do you see that there's a green notation, or but right before the green notation that says see additional notes and follow-up report, there's a statement that says that there are no records between is it September of 2014 and February of 2020 regarding operator qualifications for covered tasks?
I see that.
Okay. And do you know whether that's accurate or not, that you all, well, let me say it. So there's a distinction I've found in inspections over the years between the ability to produce records and the records actually existing. For our purposes, ordinarily, what matters is whether we can see them and ensure compliance. But are you aware of any records between September of 2014 and February of 2020 that is related to this, or do you think that that's an accurate statement?
Honestly, I don't know without going back through everything.
Okay,
myself.
well, let me ask this, but you all were asked for these records and they couldn't be provided, is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Casey, counsel, do you have any redirect?
Kevin, I believe I have just one for you. If I can have you go to, hold on just a second here. I'm going to be referring to DOI Exhibit number 1, which is the 2021 inspection, specifically at the top of page number 3. Top paragraph of page 3, Kevin, let me know when you get there. Got it?
Yes.
Starting in the middle of the third line there, can you read that sentence into the record for me, beginning with these deficiencies?
We're on the third page.
Yes. Top paragraph, third line, starting in the middle, starts with these deficiencies.
These deficiencies were cleared by the previous inspector through review of documents provided by and conversation with the operator. The piping system consists of 12 miles coated steel and plastic piping serving 480 customers. Valley Gas System has one point of delivery from the Texas Gas Transmission gas system.
Okay. And is it your understanding that looking at the beginning couple sentences of this paragraph, that the deficiencies that were cleared were from the 2019 inspection?
Yes,
Okay, so in your understanding, this is a PSC-generated document that is acknowledging your remediation of those deficiencies from 2019?
yes.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. You may be
Thank you.
excused. Mr. Warnell, do you have any other evidence or witnesses?
No further witnesses.
Okay. So we have, just as a housekeeping matter, your exhibits 2 through 12, that are all part of the record now, and DOIs 1 through 6, is that correct, Mr. Park, Mr. Warnell?
That is correct.
Yes, sir.
And there are no objections, so we'll make those all part of the record. My request is that you provide those for DOI, those 6, and for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 15 documents for a respondent, that you all provide those in PDF form, and you all can provide those to Mr. Park, and he'll give those to the reporter. Mr. Park, if you'll give your 6 documents in PDF. I ask if you put them together in a binder that if you put them together in a single document, I ask them that you do it as a binder where they are individually bookmarked as each document on the left-hand side, and that you, when you do email, that they're OCR'd, so that the text recognition, we don't have to run the text recognition again.
Yes, sir.
Because all the documents we put on our website need to be text searchable. So, Mr. Park, I'll give you an opportunity, given everybody's been able to provide their case, any additional comments to take under consideration before we talk about post-hearing procedural?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Warnell?
No, sir.
The commission has already found in its initiating order, Mr. Warnell, prima facie evidence exists, still is commission staff's burden on this. However, of course, the opening order indicated that the respondent should show cause why the violation should exist. I think that my preference in this matter would be to allow the parties to file initial simultaneous briefs and then and then responsive briefs to those initial briefs. Do you have any objection to that?
No, sir.
Mr. Park, is that fine with you?
That is fine.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, Division of Inspections would appreciate an opportunity to serve just a few post-hearing data requests.
Are they on items that were asked today in which the documents weren't able to be provided?
It goes to the issue raised by Chairman regarding expenses versus capital expenditures, and just try to get a little bit more detail on that.
Mr. Warnell, do you have any objection?
No objection to that.
I suspected you might not. So, given that I don't know that the costs are particularly well itemized at this point, so as long as they're limited to the issue of the expenses, and really in response to trying to get evidence around the assertion that the penalty should be reduced pursuant to the good faith remediation measures that have been made by the respondent, that'll be fine. When would you be able to get those data requests served into the record?
We should be able to get those served within a week.
Within a week from today? That's. Today's May the 3rd, so they would be filed by the 10th. How many days would you need to respond? How about 2 weeks?
2 weeks is fine.
All right, so we'll have those due on May the 24th. And if you could, for things that you've already incurred, if you could identify, I would hope the question would indicate it, but if not, identify when you provide those responses, which costs are capitalized and which are expense.
Yes, sir.
If data requests are filed and responded to on the 24th, how about initial briefs due June the 10th? Mr. Park, Mr. Warnell?
It's fine.
That works for me.
Okay. We don't have page limits or anything else, we just ask you, well, as long as it's filed in PDF and, complies with our regulations, we're pretty lenient on what a brief can look like. How many days would either of you need to respond? Well, let me just ask this, 14 days fine to respond to that?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Park? All right. So if there needs to be additional time for the data request responses or for the briefing from either commission staff or the respondent, I'd ask that you not wait for the final day to ask for additional time, that you give us enough time to rule on it. And I'll just say, my request is in responsive briefs that they not cover anything not identified or covered in the initial brief of the opposing counsel. Lost the one thing I need. Okay. Data request, nothing that's confidential, is that correct, Mr. Park,
That is correct.
at this point? Okay. All right, is there anything else, council, that we need to take up today's hearing?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Park? No. All right, thank you all. This hearing is adjourned.